Well, hello everyone, and welcome. Happy Friday. Friday, the end of the week already. And wow, what a week. What a week. Hmm. If you've been checking any of the coverage on the Masterson Trial, then you know that it's been a couple of really eventful days. The first couple of days of the week, the trial was off. Well, there was no trial on Monday or Tuesday. They didn't sit with the jury again until Wednesday. Hmm. But I'm going to review a little bit about Friday because if you remember, we did Friday's review around this time and there was still a lot coming out about it. And so we'll just do a little bit of review on that first. I want to just welcome everyone. Sandy, it's nice to see you. Kim, thank you for being here. And nice with the bots, you and Shill. Listen, guys, go ahead and you can hide bots immediately. Report once so that they know what's going on at YouTube, and then just hide them right off the channel because they'll just keep coming back on you. Unless you want to play, then you can do what you want if you feel like playing with them. We're just going to keep them out. It's nice to see you. Hey, Wrecker. Hey, Christina, if you're listening, thank you. I see you're working but listening, so thank you for giving us a listen, and it's good to have you here. Mae, welcome. Turtle Moose, good to see you again. Hey, Mrs. Cassandra, it's good to see you too. And for everyone else coming in after, definitely, thank you for listening. And for those of you who are listening after, I truly enjoy doing this, and thanks for keeping me here doing it. This trial isn't easy. There's a lot coming up here that, for me, listening, not only as a woman, but someone who respects the law, some of it becomes quite distasteful for me at times. And it's not exactly easy. And I know it's really not easy for a lot of you to hear either. But I'm going to keep using the exact language that portrays what it is and what we're talking about. And so, again, I will ask you all to protect your own mental health and triggers and take care of yourselves first and primarily always. Okay? Um, do what you got to do. Hey, Paula, thank you for being here. Okay, so let's go a little bit about Friday. Um, the last we spoke, that Detective Schlegel was there, and Detective Schlegel was actually the desk officer at the time when I do believe it was JD1 came in with her report, and according to her testimony, she laid everything out. He did not classify it as an assault at first. It wasn't until Detective Reyes actually got a copy of that report that it got reclassified. One of the other officers reclassified it as an assault, based on everything that was saying. Now, the defense attorney, Philip Cohen, had gone after JD1, Jane Doe 1, in regards to leaving things out of her report repeatedly, like mentioning of the gun and things like that. And what I find so striking is from the reporting, and as you know, I go over everything from the underground bunker, which is Tony Ortega. He's in the courtroom every day, giving us a synopsis and some word by word testimony that's going on back and forth. And it appears that in the cross examination of Schlegel by defense attorney Cohen, he was trying to insinuate all along that JD1 wasn't saying exactly what her report said. But lo and behold, Schlegel has a totally different recollection of it. He seemed to firm up all of her testimony. Mm-hmm. Yup. Mm-hmm. And she did mention a gun. Whoops. He said she did. Okay. It's I don't understand Cohen sometimes. I mean, I know he's trying to do his best for his client. I get it. But he either comes in there like a barracuda challenging the victims, okay, which is distasteful. And there are laws in California about where you can go with this. And he's been admonished and set back by the judge several times in how far he goes in his questioning and what he is trying to insinuate or get the jury to believe. He's been set back. He's trying to do the best for his client, and I understand that he needs to do that. And That's not exactly my issue. My issue is, are you really doing the best for your client when you look that weak about what you're trying to point out? And then your actual witness that you think is going to prove it proves the opposite in your cross. Like you're crossing this witness to try to throw JD1 under the bus, and all that happens is her testimony gets confirmed by the person who took the report that you kept putting in her face during her testimony as if she had said something wrong. And, she pushed back a lot. She said, no, I didn't say it like that. No, you're twisting my word. No, I don't believe so. That's not my recollection. I don't recall it that way. I don't believe I said it like that. These are the kinds of answers that are coming out of all of the victims' mouths when dealing with Cohen, because he is really trying to manipulate the situation into what they said. And I understand that that's part of his job, so I'm not having a go at him for doing his job. I might be having a little bit of a go at how poorly it's playing out, because it's not playing the way he thinks it's playing. Um, Most of the reporting that's coming out now after several weeks of trial is that this is not looking very good for Mr. Masterson, the way his attorneys are addressing it. Um, Especially the way they open up some of the days of court. Um, I have to say that when they got back into court on Wednesday, okay, before they even continued, let me finish Friday first. I'm sorry. Schlegel absolutely proved JD's reporting and actual recollection of the event is how she actually reported it. The things that Cohen was saying that she said or didn't say, and this and that, he was like picking on the report from Schlegel, and he was picking on the report from Reyes. You'll remember there was all this stuff about, was it a slap or was it a punch? Like when JD3, like all this stuff going back and forth. In regards to the reporting, Cohen keeps going back to the reports that these women gave, right, and saying, "Do you remember this word? Do you remember that word?" Twisting it in ways to make it look like it's something that they're not actually intending. And to the credit of these witnesses, they are actually sticking to the guns and saying, "No, that's not how I recall it. Let me look at what you're talking about." And it says right here, and like they're reading what he's reading and saying, "No, that's not my understanding of what that says. I think this says this." And they are sticking to their testimony the best that they can and trying to correct things as they go. Okay, trying to correct everything, the best way that they can, you know. And I have to give them a lot of credit for that. Also to D.A. Mueller for giving them the space to do it, and the absolute Judge Almeida for keeping that courtroom calm and respectful, and allowing every witness the time that they need, and asking them repeatedly if they need extra time. When objections happen, she is being fair on both sides. I have to say there were quite a few objections during these 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday, of testimony that were credible on the defense's side for where the witnesses were going, that may have been prejudicial to Danny Masterson. And I would have to agree with the judge when she held them up, because they would have been damaging and they would have been hearsay and only opinion. These weren't experts on the stands these couple of days. So for Friday, when we actually wrapped everything up, I made a couple of other notes. That the way that Schlegel proved that she may have mentioned the gun, but he may have not made a big deal about it in the report, is that he does recall looking to see if Danny had one registered to him. And that was how he says, "Well, I do believe that she must have mentioned it, because why would I do that?" And that kind of stood out to me right there, that, this detective is trying to be uh, as honest as possible in his testimony about it. And it does make sense. I mean, why is he going to check? Now, was this, he was asked, is that standard operating procedure? And he says, not unless it's like a violent crime or somebody was threatened with one. Well, they did look him up to see if he had a gun registered. So it is believed that JD1 did actually mention the gun. She did actually mention it during her testimony, and she probably mentioned it for the reporting. Um, Also of note, both Mueller and Cohen made note that during Schlegel's testimony, he also said that um, Jane Doe one had stated that she may have that she dated an officer, and that was made in a big deal a little bit. Like, what does that have to do with it? Well, it has to do with where she did the report. She went into this place and did the report here. Okay. um just because she did date an officer, and it might have been a matter of trust. You have to remember, and Da Mueller did a good job of bringing this forward. Her state of mind at the time was that you're not allowed to report. You're really going against everything by doing this. They did a very good job of convincing her that it wasn't something to be reported, that she should not be coming forward with this. She felt harassed by the Church of Scientology into not reporting it. And she was in a state of mind of fear, and so she's looking for trust. Okay. What Cohen actually did in his cross would make Schlegel's report stand up good. And although he tried to discredit Jane Doe 1 in regards to that reporting, the actual opposite kind of happened. It actually solidified her testimony uh, in what she was, and it did make him look like all of that he did on Thursday and before, and all during the beginning of the week, because Jane Doe 1 was on several days, and so was Jane Doe 3. Um, it, Constantly, he's trying to discredit how they reported and what they said in the reports and what they're saying now. And it just doesn't seem to appear to be hitting the notes that he wants for the jury. The jury does watch, and listen, you know, but it seems to be falling a little flat, at least from the reporting that's coming out from the reporters that are actually watching what's going on. That seems to be the general consensus of everyone who's reporting on it, not just Tony Ortega. Um, the other thing that happened on Friday, you remember that Jane Doe 3's husband Cedric testified. And D.A. Mueller did a good job of bringing harassment forward here, because if you remember the stories, Jane Doe 3 and her husband Cedric, they had dogs that were killed. They were harassed. They have children. They have been living in fear for quite a while, and they claimed during their both of their testimonies that this harassment is still going on every day to this day. It didn't stop. It's not stopping. Okay, and Cohen did his best to try to act like the husband and wife were colluding. Now they're married. Okay, to think that they don't talk is crazy. Okay, absolutely crazy. But colluding their testimony, no. It's actually, there were several things that Cedric actually pointed out that didn't actually coincide with exactly what Jane Doe 3. So to have it look like collusions, or that they collaborated in their testimony and they word for word what they were going to say, it just looked silly because they weren't matching up totally anyway. Even though what Cedric said didn't actually discredit Jane Doe 3, it just didn't match it. As far as timing, they're trying to remember the exact days of this and that, and neither one can come up with exact days or the same statement about many of it. He was trying to act like Cedric had bias, okay, and he's married to her and they have children. Really, really, defense attorney Cohen? Okay, what does it have to do with anything? I mean, yes, the husband is going to testify in support of his wife in a case like this. Absolutely. And if you had him on the other side, you would most likely have to treat him like a hostile witness. And I get that. But you're looking a little silly here because they're talking about the harassment here. Okay. He's not making a big deal about it. There are reports about this harassment that all support what he's saying. This is not bias. This is fact. Well, one of the most one of the most key moments for me on Friday's testimony with Cedric and that really did the most damage to defense attorney Cohen's plan when he asked Cedric in court, "Do you love your wife?" And I'm thinking, well, this ain't gonna go good, right? Come on. You're gonna ask the man if he loves his wife? No, in court. And this man looks him dead in the face and says, like there's no tomorrow. Of course he loves his wife, you idiot. He's in court talking about how some other man violated her, talking about the harassment of his family for years as he defends her. What kind of moronic path was that this man was on? Somebody needs to explain that one to me. I mean, maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but to me, that made the prosecution look great and the defense look clueless. Absolutely clueless, right? Always, I mean, come on, that's reaching, right? Um, the the idea of collusion, right? Well, of course, they're husband and wife. I mean, come on. There's going to be some talk, but actually, they said that they went out of their way not to discuss it after they. It was Cedric. Let's just refresh here that it was Cedric that actually told her straight to her face what you went through was a violation. What you went through was wrong. What you went through was no consent. No consent equals rape. It doesn't matter you were in a relationship. He was the one that led her down that path because he believed it. It's true. It's not about whether you're in a relationship. It's not about whether you've ever done anything with that person before. It is a matter of consent. That is the legal definition. Let us remember. Let us remember that this is a court of law. What is the legal definition of that violation? Lack of consent. That's the strong point here. It doesn't matter what Scientology told her. It does matter how it made her feel. That's the delay. It doesn't take away that it happened because they say you can't use the word. It didn't take away any of that for her. Now she went on and she got married, and he set her on a path to call that hotline to get more information. And the more she talked about it with other people, the more they agreed. What happened to you was a violation. They didn't convince her. She knew it. She knew it. But she had been delayed in reporting it. Mm-hmm. And this is a very good point. Angela, thank you. And welcome. Husband and wife colluding, like Miranda Scogans and her husband, the chaplain, like Kendrick Moxon and Danny's attorney. Methinks thou protest too much. Exactly. He is not doing himself any favors here. Okay, none at all. Did he forget Sean Fabos just automatically remembering something on last Thursday when the private investigator for Danny Masterson just happened to talk to him for 2 seconds? And then brand new testimony came out? you know, like, I don't think you all really want us looking at this like this, defense attorney Cohen. I really don't. I really don't think he wants us looking this hard. Because man, oh man, I get you, Angela. There's so much history, right? It's like, really, you don't want us to say the word Scientology, and now you don't really want us like looking at this collusion thing, really, do you? Do you really? Okay. So anyway, let's put Friday to rest. That was what happened on Friday. A court rested on Monday and Tuesday. They had other things on the agenda, and then Wednesday we start again. And we're going to start on Wednesday after the review. Um, I got to bring. All right. Okay. On Wednesday, when they open up court. Okay. First of all, I need to tell you they got rid of a juror already. Okay, juror number 10, all along, both the defense and the prosecutor had been telling Judge Almeida that they occasionally nod off during testimony, and they didn't appreciate it. And I know it sounds like I'm a little giddy about that, but it is kind of funny. Like Cohen is doing such a bang up job that the jurors fall apart, fall asleep. But anyway, I can't imagine how they were falling asleep through some of the testimony of these victims, but apparently they were, and both sides are getting really annoyed with it, and they brought it to the judge's attention. There was so much complaint about it that they all agreed that juror number 10 was going to be excused. Okay, and an alternate was immediately seated. They did bring in, when the jury came in, another person, and it's now 6 men and 6 women. The juror 10 was replaced. The man, it was 7'5". It's now 6'6", because they replaced him with a woman. Just randomly from the pool. They didn't get to vote on it or anything like that. They had already been pre-approved. They were in the alternates, so off they came. Okay. Hey, Bearded, how are you? Welcome. Hey, Saab, thank you for joining us today. And Kira, welcome. And anyone else who's come in that I wasn't looking at the chat the last couple of minutes, I appreciate you all. Well, all right, let's get to Wednesday morning. Okay, court opens up. We have a new juror member set. The woman comes in. It's now 6'6", 6 men and 6 women. Juror 10 has been excused. Well, from the defense, Karen Goldstein, she's the other member of the defense team with Phil and Cohen. She says she needs to make a statement. Okay. And she approaches Judge Almeida with this. And I have to read this, exactly what she said, because I just want to read this exchange with no commentary, and I promise to try to keep my snark at bay. And please, comment at will. Comment at will. Okay. Defense attorney Karen Goldstein brings up the next item. Goldstein, and I quote, "As of November 1st, yesterday, Leah Remini has tweeted 36 points about this trial. She has commented on defense strategy. She has commented on Scientology. She was at one point a victim advocate in this case. She was at JD1's interview in 2017. She has met with Detective Vargas multiple times. The tweets emphasize the points made several times, but the defense says this makes it exceedingly difficult for Mr. Masterson to get a fair trial." So she, Goldstein, is asking the media to cover she states that Leah Remini is asking the media to cover this trial even more, and it refers to a multi-million-dollar cult. And Goldstein wants it lodged on the record in case the jurors have been influenced by this. So, D.A. Mueller for the prosecution states, "I'm not aware of any of that being tweeted by Ms. Remini. I do believe there are a number of other media reporting on this case and podcasts going on. So I imagine this isn't the only information about this trial out there." Judge Almeida responds, "I've not seen it. Certainly, Ms. Remini's views don't influence my legal rulings. I follow the case law, and so whatever she is tweeting about certainly has no bearing on the court. As for our jurors, I have significantly admonished them to not pay attention to social media, and we assume they follow the court's admonition. I don't think any of them indicated that they followed Ms. Remini at all. I know some indicated they had seen her show, but I don't know any of them have been exposed to that. But if you want to lodge it to lay a record, you're certainly welcome to." And Goldstein says, "Thank you." Almeida says, "So we'll just wait for the jurors to come in, and we'll replace juror 10 with a random person chosen from the alternates, and their chances are significantly higher than playing the Powerball." She's so funny. I love this woman. But anyway, okay, so, and let me just throw it out there. Anybody think Miss Cabbage is talking to the defense? Was that like right out of like one of their playbooks? Like, Oh, throw a box of tissues over there, because gosh darn, somebody's talking about Scientology again out there, outside of the courtroom, somewhere else, but we all should have to hear about it. Okay. All right. So basically, they're setting up for appeal. That Danny Masterson could not get a fair trial because Scientology kept being brought in. Not true. You know who just brought Scientology in? Who just brought Scientology into that courtroom and made that statement? I don't think it was the prosecutor. Sure wasn't the judge. Hmm. Yes, Angela, isn't she wonderful? Hey, Mocking, nice to see you. But anyway, yeah, Judge Almeida, she kind of slapped it down. She said, hey, hey, hey. No, it wasn't meant. Yes, yes, Bearded. Bingo, you get the prize. It could have been Masterson's own legal team. Who the hell keeps throwing them into evidence? Who the hell keeps talking about them every chance they get to complain about how everybody else is talking about Scientology in a negative way? But I digress. I mean, it to me, it is just a little funny. It's just a little funny. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. So, thank goodness. All right. That's Philip Cohen. And this is what Danny looks like now. This is just a couple of days ago arriving at court. I'll leave this one up for a little bit. But anyway, I just find it striking that they keep complaining about Scientology being added into here, and yet they're the ones that keep doing it. They're the ones that keep bringing it in. All right, so we are going to hear Wednesday and Thursday, mostly Wednesday, from Jane Doe 2. Okay, we hadn't heard her story before, and I'm going to have to get really serious here for a little bit just to tell you what her story actually portrays. And I'm going to make it brief. I'm not going to go into the graphic details, but what I find to be significant about the story on both the prosecution and the defense side. I recommend to anyone that wants to read it word for word what she said, according to some that are reporting on it. One of the ones that has one of the best word to words is, of course, Tony Ortega. He's linked down below in my description, and he does daily reporting in sections. If you're following him through his underground bunker, he will send them to your emails if you register. He does a little video wind up of the day every day to give you the synopsis. But if you want to read the details of every little thing, if you want to match up the testimonies, that's where you're going to find it. The synopsis pretty much is that Jane Doe did know Danny Masterson. They're both actors. They've been in the same circles. Okay, she was younger. She was around 22 when this incident occurred, but she knew of him before. They have been in the church together since she was, say 18. Okay, her mother is a Scientologist, or was a Scientologist, but she wasn't that active in it when Jane Doe 2 joined, which was about 20 years ago. She was impressed of his status as an actor. This came up in the court, okay, and the defense made big deal of it. But basically, she says that they went out with one of her friends, and one of her friends knew of Danny Masterson, and they were going to go out. They went to a restaurant. He was quite aggressively at the end. He was staring at her intensely, she said, to the point that she was uncomfortable, without talking to her the whole time that they all were out as a group. When they left the group outside the door, he said, "Give me your number." Not, "May I have it?" Not whatever. But because, she's thinking everybody, she knows him, there's work related, she really didn't make too much out of it. She gave him the number. She says she gets home, and the next day she starts getting texts from Danny Masterson. "Come over right now. I want you in my jacuzzi. Bring a bathing suit. You need to come now." She said the texts were aggressive. She said she felt he was just being disrespectful, and she just kept saying, "No, I'm not coming there, because let's have a date first." Like, she kept saying, like, it's just not going to be like that. Let's just have a date. Like, if you're interested in me, act like you're interested in me. She did not really, she thought that she was pushing him back, and they were like, that might be his way of flirting, you know, flirting around and stuff like that, Um, but no, this is Jane Doe number 2 I'm talking about. We were talking about Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 3 just a little bit ago, finishing up on Friday, but we're on Wednesday now, and this is Jane Doe 2. Okay. And she's the last one to report her story. All right. Bearded, I do miss you, and I wish you were here doing this with me. I could use you actually. Stop that. Like, you need to contact me. You really do. Well, anyway, let's get back to Jane Doe 2. She actually is stating that she felt that the texts were aggressive. She started going back and forth with him about it, thinking that this might just be his flirting style. This just might be, how he thinks he's funny, like he all that or whatever. And she's pushing back. They're doing this, that, and the other thing. She keeps telling him nothing's going to happen. Like, I'm going to come there, but I'm not bringing a bathing suit, and I'm not getting in your jacuzzi. And they're going back and forth. And he says, well, all right, we'll just come. And then, she goes, we're going to come and talk, and maybe we'll have a drink. Okay. And so, they have text messages back and forth about all of that. She goes to his home willingly, she admits. He gives her a big glass of wine. She states that he keeps saying, drink it now, drink it all. Let's get drinking. She's not drinking at the time, but he's sitting there and she's trying to have a conversation with him, and all he keeps saying is, drink the wine. You know, she does. Then he tries to get her to walk outside towards the jacuzzi. Okay, and she says she starts to feel a little. Okay, a little. But she doesn't ever use the term that she felt out of body or she felt drugged or anything like that. She uses no terminology like that. She just keeps saying he was demanding and pushy, and I was trying to diffuse the situation. This is the language she uses. This is what struck me when I'm reading what has been written with what happened in the courtroom. The language is things like, I tried to diffuse it. I tried to keep it from going farther. I tried to actually get it to be a different situation. In other words, she felt herself trying to manipulate the situation into what she felt might have been going on. She was uncomfortable and fearful, and she was trying to keep it from escalating. She uses terms like that. He starts demanding her to get into the jacuzzi. He starts demanding that she take all her clothes off. She starts to feel weird, she says, like out of it. And she doesn't know if she took her clothes off or if he took her clothes off. She does remember him starting to. She doesn't know if she helped him. She does remember being in the jacuzzi. Okay. She remembers a lot of kissing. She said she didn't mind the kissing. She told him kissing was okay. She said that he violated her with her fingers, but that she didn't really violate as long as she kept telling him no sex. I don't want to have sex. And he kept saying okay. And so they kissed and they fondled, and what quote unquote both attorneys had made clear, there was fingering that way going on. It then proceeds back upstairs. There's a shower. The kissing is going on again. Um, he's in the shower with her. She says that he penetrated her against her will. She clearly told him no while they were kissing, even that time in the shower, and he did. And then he pulled out, stopped, and told her get out of the shower. And then they went to the room. Now here's the problem: he's ordering her around, and she's doing whatever he says. She says at this point, she's trying to control the situation from getting to be worse. That she keeps telling him no, and she doesn't think he's going to do it again. That she reminds him that it's unprotected, that we can't be doing this. I don't want to do this. So his answer is okay. She gets back into the bed. They start kissing again, and things escalate again. She tells him she doesn't want to have any sex. At this point, She says that he very quickly grabbed her by the hips, flipped her over onto her hands and knees, and violated her roughly to the point where she almost vomited in her own mouth. She said she didn't know what to do. She said she kept saying no. That's the testimony. Now, Mueller has set it up to let her talk about it to the point where they talk about it after. They don't go into the details again about it. They start talking about what did you do after. She says she reported it. She says she tried to call him. She says she talked to him. She uses words to associate it with she didn't want to believe what happened. Okay. She stayed there until 5:06 in the morning. She talked to him after. She told him she didn't want it. He called her a passionate person. She said that, she didn't want sex. She didn't want to do it again. But she stayed until, for many hours afterwards. She said that they talked. They talked for quite a long while. Now, this is important because the defense is using this to say that the reason that J. Doe, I mean, basically the defense went on and on about her liking him, wanting a relationship with him. She stayed all night. That this is probably revenge for him not wanting a relationship for her because he mentions the fact that she contacted him the next day and he didn't really want anything to do with her. Well, Jane Doe 2 says that's when she knew that it was a violation, that she had been um, assaulted. She tried to recategorize it as something else because she also reports during this that she had been violated prior by a boyfriend months before, and she had gone to Scientology, and they told her that it couldn't be, that if you're going to be in a relationship with someone, it can't be rape, and you can't report it because you can't report on another Scientologist. Now, Jane Doe's 2's testimony sticks out to me strongly in this manner because she's actually, it appears to be in a place where she's trying to recategorize what happened to her because she's not dealing with it. She can't be the other thing because there's nothing she can do about it if it is. And so the language that she uses and the things that she's talking about, they all reflect in that conversation that she's trying to get it to be as if they actually, with this one thing, were in a relationship or something, or there's something here. It's something different than what it appears to be because it can't be that. Um, and it's going to come out forward. Come out more when they start to bring uh the the expert witnesses. There's a Miss Mechanic that's going to testify on Friday, I believe, today. That I'll be reporting next week about in regards to that. But it was quite striking that she'd been through this once before and went to Scientology about it. So she's already fearful of what's going to happen. She already kind of has a picture in her head of the outcome. So no wonder she was like, let me just keep this down to a minimum of what I can deal with. Let me just try to deal with this situation before it gets out of hand. Um, and yet, the defense attorney is using all of that against her in the rest of the testimony for the day. He tries to make it that she wanted a relationship with Danny, that she found him attractive, that she wanted everything that happened, and yet clearly through all of the testimony, she says, "But I said no. I said no before, during, and after. I said no." And he's trying to say, well, you said no, but you stayed. You said no, but you contacted him afterwards. You said no, but you never reported it. Very distasteful to me, but I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to put doubt on the situation. That she's trying to say that it didn't happen that way. That it didn't happen that way, and that she did consent, and that she's just doing this out of revenge. And that's classic, and I get it. I get it. Um, you know, that's what they got to do. Um, I don't know, Sean. Let me just Swoop. Wait, wrong one. Yep. Nope. I don't see that it was drugged, Sean. Oh, here it is. Was the wine drugged? We're not sure. She does say that she didn't feel like herself. She felt her body be heavy. She said she didn't feel, all she remembers is feeling like she wanted to control the situation, but the situation was getting out of control. She admits to blackouts, not remembering things clearly. There's spotty parts of her memory in regards to who took the clothes off. How did she get upstairs to the shower? What exactly, there's parts of the shower things she don't remember, there's parts of things in the bedroom she doesn't remember, and she clearly says, this is what I remember, this is what I don't. She used statements like, at times there's like a spotlight on the scene and I remember everything, and other times there's total blackness. She said it's very clear and then very not. So to me, to a layperson, just from the outside, that would sound like it. But you have to remember, in this case, there's no forensic evidence. There is no hardcore evidence of DNA, drugs. There was no rape kits being done. There was a delay in the reporting of years. Years. The delay was due to Scientology policies. They were all Scientologists. They all went and tried to report it to Scientology, and they were all told they could not report it outside of Scientology. All three, same message, same delay. When they all, on their own, individually, came to the conclusion that they could not deal with what happened to them and wanted it reported, and they all did it in different ways, they got harassed. No evidence of any drugs. Several victims experienced similar effects. Most victims never took drugs to even compare. Exactly, Angela. They can't really state. Nor, and I will give it to the prosecution at this point, they don't harp on it because they know there's no physical evidence, and it just opens a door for them to say, yeah, right, well, prove that. No, they can testify for how they felt. They are testifying for what their perception of everything that happened, but they're not claiming, the prosecution is not claiming drugged. They're saying they felt like they were drugged. They didn't have control of their body. They're being very careful here, you know, and rightly so. Okay. hmm And Sean says, "Thank you. I wasn't sure if he drugged her or by having her drink, so he could say that she was drunk." Well, they are trying to say that because Jane Doe number two claims to says that she has, not claims, but reports or testifies that she has extreme anxiety, and being a Scientologist, she did not believe in medication for it, and she was not of the belief that medication would have been appropriate. She admits to having a little vodka here and there or a glass of wine before stressful uh, situations, and before she went on that date at his house, what she thought was going to be a date to have a glass of wine and get to know each other, she says she may have had one or two glasses of wine or a shot of vodka to calm her, because that would have been what she normally would have done in a stressful situation. And of course, the other side, defense attorney Cohen is trying to say that, maybe that is what contributed to her being drunk or whatever. But she says that is what she normally did, and she did not have the same kind of effects. It didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like it was just a little too much. She goes to parties and will drink wine to the part of being that loose and getting a little drunk because she's with her friends and she feels safe. And she said that felt totally different than the bodily feeling that she had. Okay. True, Angela. They don't even let you take NyQuil. It's true. They do not believe in medications. And always Grateful reminds us that it's not unusual for some victims to try to rationalize the abuse as something else. And this has come forward. This Jane Doe too clearly admits that that's what she was trying to do, that she's gone through the process in her head with therapy and all, and she realizes that that's what she was doing. And when she gets pushed back by defense attorney Cohen, this is what she states, that that's what she was doing. It she needed it to be something else than what it actually was. But it was what it was, and she sticks to her guns about it, regardless of how her words are twisted and tried to be used against it. Okay. Um. Oh boy. So this testimony was all of Wednesday. Um. Oh boy. Of course, the next part is hard because, oh, well, the next part is hard for me because she left, and she told her friend, or Jordan Ladd is the next one to come up. Um, Actually, the next one to come up is actually Jane Doe's mom, but I want to talk about Jordan Ladd first, even though her testimony was first, because she's the first. She she was told by Jane Doe too about the situation. Okay. And she said it was less than a 3-minute conversation. She told her everything, but she didn't know how to react. Now she's not a Scientologist, and she did take a couple of courses, but they were best friends at the time. But she was so stunned, like, that this happened to her, and that she said it was the way that Jane Doe too was acting. She was quite upset about the whole thing, but she was all just so like, this just happened, like, so kind of like matter of fact. um she didn't give her Jane Doe 2's testimony says that she didn't really react. Jordan didn't really react to the conversation very well. um and, and that she didn't really give her any advice. She didn't really say much. She just seemed stunned. And Jordan says the same thing. Okay, but regardless of what they tried to say about her colluding with anybody in regards to testimony, she fought back. She fought back incredibly. Okay, so I'm gonna go back, and the next testimony is the first person that Jane Doe 2 actually spoke to, and that was the very next day, and that was her mother. Okay. And this was hard testimony. I can't imagine being a mother on a witness stand and having to testify what my daughter told me about a sexual experience that was so violent it made them vomit in their own mouth. Um, that they were so surprised and stunned, and that they said the word no, but it happened anyway, and that felt so that I vomited in my own mouth. Like, just hearing that. I mean, she's not my daughter, and it makes me feel quite a certain way. Well, Jane Doe's mom, to her credit, tried to stick to the story as best she could. Okay, she testifies that she was told this, but the word rape was never brought up. That she knew that they were going to go on this date. That her daughter did say that she kind of liked him a little, whatever. She did say she was a little uncomfortable, but she doesn't recall her saying that she like wanted a relationship for him, or going on about him or anything. It was just that normal kind of stuff, just normal, back and forth. That this is what was going to happen. Afterwards, she said it was different. She told her about it. She said she felt ill over it. She was upset. She was obviously very, very upset about it, but they didn't discuss on whether it was consensual or not, or anything like that. um the mom, in further testimony, testified why she didn't think it was rape. And being of that age in that group, she clearly just came right out and said, because I thought you had to have a weapon, or have somebody holding something to your throat, or threaten to kill you, or physically beating on you for it to be rape. I didn't realize that rape was about consent. I didn't realize that the word rape was tied into the word no consent, which is, by the way, the legal definition in this courtroom of the term. Okay, regardless of anyone's perception of what rape is, what Scientology says that rape can be does not exist in a legal court. Them saying it doesn't exist is not true in a legal court. And unfortunately, mom's perception of it having to be so untowardly violent for it to be doesn't either, because the legal definition is no consent. But I really felt for that mom because she felt terrible on that stand. And the testimony, you can see it in the words. They had conversations back and forth. She's been talking to her daughter all along about this. It's her child. They do back and forth. The teachings and things like that. But her mother was no longer active in the church, so she didn't push that Scientology stuff on her. But she understood the fear that her daughter felt in regards to it. She understood the confusion in her wanting to recategorize it into something else. She understood all of that. Okay. They went on and on, on and on. Okay. When it became the turn of the defense attorney Cohen to cross-examine the mother of Jane Doe too, he went at her about the same old stuff: collusion. Has anybody talked to you about this? Did you go over your testimony with this one? Did you remember this? Are you sure you remember everything correctly? And she will admit that was a long time ago. I don't remember the exact words. I remember what it felt like. I remember what she said. I remember certain parts clearly. I remember my interviews. Back and forth, they went back and forth about the interviews that she gave, words that she used, things like that. Okay. It went on and on and on, like that, back and forth. And I felt for the mom, and she's trying to be as honest as possible. But it seems like within the last couple of weeks, the mom had actually contacted the prosecution and said, I have remembered other things, and I need to know how to bring them forward. Like I don't like I'm starting to have recollections and I want to know. And he tried to use that against her too. Even though she followed proper procedure, it comes out in the cross back and forth and the recross that she actually followed all the rules. Like she didn't just do it. She didn't do this. She didn't speak to her daughter about it or anything else. She only went how she should. She go, what is the process? How do I do it? Like, I don't want to do anything wrong. She's trying to obey the rules, and he was trying to turn it into something else. But she actually came out looking quite credible about it, and so did the prosecution in how they handled it in regards to explaining the process to her and etc. Um, so it kind of got left with the fact that she knew about it from the start. That obviously it wasn't something that all of a sudden Jane Doe 2 decided after pursuing Danny for months, according to Cohen, the defense attorney, that she liked him, and because Danny rebutted her several times when she texted or whatever and asked for this, that, or the other favor, that this was retaliation, because she recanted the story exactly to her mother the very next day. Um, and that was the process. So if it was true on day one, how did she like present it a different way 3 years later? I don't know. It sounds the same to me. I think Cohen's a little off on that one. I don't think it's about revenge. I don't think she changed the story, not accordingly. Jordan and the mothers tell the same exact story that was told. Okay. Jordan Ladd being her best friend. Now, Jordan Ladd and her had a falling out for years. They were together in the beginning, okay, and then they weren't. In Jordan's testimony, when asked how did she relate the story to you, and she told her what she said. She said, "What did you say?" She said, "She told me a story about," and I'm going to use the words here, but I'm going to tell you straight out, this was stricken from the record. The jury is not allowed to take this into consideration. When Jordan Ladd asked, "What did Jane Doe report to you?" she said, "She told me about his date rape." And that got stricken because it was objected to. And that's one of the things that I agree with the judge, because that term would indicate drugging and this and that. It has more to it than just no consent. It's a bigger thing. When you think of those terms together, you think of a whole scenario, right? Am I wrong? I mean, what did you guys think when I said it, right? Stuff pops in your head. Yeah. And so I agree with the judge for allowing that to be stricken and allowing the objection from Cohen on that. I do, because her language, that is what Jordan thinks it was. She's straight out. That's what I call it too, regardless, but we don't have any evidence of the rest of it, right? We don't have any evidence of drugs or this or that, that we can. Okay, but we have the testimony of the accusers and of all the people that they told, and including the LAPD, which is another, which is another whole damn thing. It's another whole damn thing, because here come, the reason I have Lady Justice up here is because when they start talking about the LA Police Department, the words corruption, deception, and possibly working for Scientology came up so much that I can't believe Defense Cohen didn't actually have an aneurysm. Because, like, I would have, okay, because it seems that all along, Defense Attorney Cohen has been stating that he believes that the witnesses, the accusers rather, have all talked together and colluded together and collaborated together to bring their stories in light with similarities to punish Masterson. That it didn't really happen all that way. Okay. And after Jordan Ladd's testimony, where she says in her testimony that they had a falling out, and that the reason she came forward to the detective is because she saw the article about an investigation into Danny Masterson for sexual assault, and as she remembered that Jane Doe 2 actually told her story, and as she contacted Jane Doe 2 and said, "I remember what you told me," and Jane Doe 2 didn't even remember telling her. And she clearly says, I didn't have a recollection right away that I had actually even spoken to her. But she did give her name when when they went and did the reporting, that she may have, that they were best friends at the time. All right, so they did, her name's there. But Jordan contacted the investigators and all on herself. She did, because she said she had something to say about it, that she remembered a conversation with her, and she wanted to help if possible. Jane Doe 2 never asked her to. They didn't have conversations about it. Okay. Mm-mm. But the defense tried to prove that. But then when you go into the investigators, they say that they talked to them first. And here's how the questioning goes. The defense attorney, did you contact so-and-so? No. Did you speak with this one? No. Did you do this? No. That's all Jordan Ladd said. No, 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 to almost everything that defense attorney Cohen tried to put forward as her colluding or doing anything. Okay. She just gave testimony. She went through. They had a falling out. They hadn't even talked to in years. Okay. But she wanted to come forward because she remembered the situation and she remembered the conversation. And I give her credit for that. But it's not. She's an actress also. This is Cheryl Ladd's daughter, by the way. Jordan Ladd is Cheryl Ladd's daughter. And she was friends with Jane Doe too. They did some movies together and all. They became friends. They're all in the same circles. She was not a Scientologist, although like many of them in the same circle, she took a couple courses because, you're all around all these Scientologists over there in movie land, and they're all pushing it on you. Mm-hmm. So she took a couple courses, she said, but she wasn't a Scientologist. She never became a member. She wasn't part of it. Okay, so she didn't feel that pressure as much. But she understands where Jane Doe 2 was coming from. Yeah. Well, here we go back to the Los Angeles Police Department, because all along, during this testimony, right after Jane Doe Ladd, we're going to talk about Detective Reyes again, okay, and Detective Vargas, who both took reports for Reyes. And in all of the testimony, especially in Jane Doe 2, it comes forward in Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2 and Jane Doe 3 that there was some, they felt not exactly appropriate conversations going on. I do believe it was Jane Doe 1 who said that she actually felt that her interactions with Detective Reyes were inappropriate. That instead of contacting her about the case, like at one time she contacted her for a nut recipe that she served during an interview. But that was it. Instead of checking up on her for having a panic attack or anything else that was going up, she's asking her for nut recipes. We find out that the reason the DA didn't pick up the case to the original file in the beginning was that Detective Reyes was going on vacation. And the DA at the time said they had to actually meet with Jane Doe 1 prior to, let's say, June 22nd. But Detective Reyes was going on vacation, so she didn't schedule. She told Jane Doe 1 she couldn't meet with him on her own. Okay. They had to do it together. So by the 24th, they dropped it because there was no further evidence coming forward. They had not come forward. They had weeks to do that, and they didn't. So the ball got dropped by the LAPD department in regards to that report, on going forward, and it's looking like, eh, nobody wants to call out anyone who works in the law. Nobody does, but it does look at all along. Detective Reyes told them not to talk to each other, and at the same time set up phone numbers for them to talk to other witnesses and record it. Said that first she's telling them all along not to talk to anyone else in regards to this because it could look like a poisoned testimony. It could look poisoned. It could look colluded. It could look bad for the case. Okay. But at the same time, they set up private lines for them to use so that they could contact people they talked about and get it on tape so the stories couldn't change as to whether or not they spoke about it or not, or they knew the situation that was going on, that could be used for evidence. Because remember, they didn't have any physical evidence of these attacks. They need actually the recollections of the witnesses and the people involved, um, as clean as they can get them, um, prior uh, prior to being in a court of law and giving the actual testimony. And so they had set up these blind phone numbers for them, that although they used their own devices, these numbers would come up as blind on the other people's phones, so they didn't know who it was. Um, One of the reasons that Jane Doe 1 became very suspicious of the department and Reyes in particular is that one of the numbers that they were given was compromised and out in the public as being used by the LAPD for another debunked sting that they used it on. And Jane Doe 1 was the one that unmasked that herself. Nobody discovered it from the police department for her or protected them. Um, and as I was reading something that Tony Ortega wrote and then actually reclarified in his short video for the summation, was that it's quite striking how these three victims have been left on their own from the start. Even when they went and reported everything, first reports just came up different. Weren't even though they were talking about sodomy, did not put it down as a sexual assault or rape. Mm-mm. Things like that. Witnesses not being called. They constantly were in touch with Detective Reyes. Why haven't you contacted my witnesses? Why are you not going to this one and that one? They felt that things were not being handled. Everything was just in the process to try to delay. Maybe it'll just get dropped. And in the beginning, that is what happened. Mm. Um, they've been harassed. They've been held back. Um, and well, now they finally have their day in court. And although we're only hearing the prosecution side right now, they're going to wrap up by Thursday. We are going to hear like next week from expert witnesses that are going to say like why the women are using certain terminology, how they may have felt, things like that. Um, that might help understand, how it could be like that you're still in a relationship with someone, how you could possibly stay there until X amount of time, things, why were you just doing what they said? If any of you follow anyone who reports on like cult mentality and some of the techniques that people do, I had done a series on Nexium in Keith Renier, I'm going to speak about for a moment, in some of the techniques that he and Nancy use in regards to voice domineering and control, and setting the pattern for where you immediately became the secondary person in a relationship, no matter how deep of a relationship that was, even if you just met them, that there were techniques that were being used. And if you do any research at all, and I'm not going to say that this is a fact, I'm going to tell you to go out there and look on your own. I believe this to be part of the problem here in regards with Danny Masterson. is that his ability to be domineering with that voice control bullshit in the pattern of he is an upstat in Scientology. He has the power in the situation, and that is how every woman is looking at it because they are Scientologists. And that is the culture that they have been told about. That is what they have been repeatedly told. This is, they believe in Scientology at the time, remember. This is before they became ex Scientologists. This is before they got their power back and left. They were told they were secondary. They were told whatever he wanted is what goes. This is the relationship ladder there. Um, you can go, there's plenty of videos on it. I recommend, I just had a conversation with Chris Shelton the other day that we were on the same wavelength about it. He actually confirmed for me that that is absolutely true. That is the culture there. That is what they're taught, all of them. Okay. There is no body autonomy in Scientology if you're a woman, and that needs to be. We're not allowed to talk about Scientology in a courtroom or what that did to these women. But I can talk about it here. I can see it in what they're saying and what they're doing and why they might have still been there. And that's possibly why I get so goddamn offended by defense attorney Cohen when he tries to say, oh, you just liked it. You just thought he was cute, right? Like, he's got money. He's all that. No. If it was all that, why is he using demand? If he's all that, why do these women feel like they have no control of their body? You know, why is he doing it while they sleep? Yeah, because he's all that. But anyway, I digress. Let's do some more facts. Oh, well, Detective Vargas had an interview um, with the mother in 2017. And Cohen, during the cross examination again of the mother, I want to go back to, keeps insinuating that Jane Doe 2 wanted this relationship so bad with Danny Masterson. Okay. But the mother doesn't conclude with that. She says she doesn't recall her using terminology like romantic or things like that. That she may have said it in some of the reports, because that's how she speaks. But she's saying she's not sure her daughter used terminology like that. Although the defense attorney Cohen's trying to insinuate that it is because of the language. Now, he does this a lot. He also wants to insinuate, because Jane Doe 2 used the term our investigation, or was it Jane Doe 1? Anyway, it was one of the Jane Does used the term our investigation. And he said that proves collusion, that they all collaborated together because she misspoke and said our instead of my investigation in regards to a question that was asked. Okay. And this is how he takes one word and flip and flip. That proves this. He reminds me of some of the best conspiracy theorists out there, like right now. I know. And it might be because I'm actually feeling very soft towards the accusers at this point after hearing the testimony. And I could be a little biased right now, and I'll admit it. Like, it's kind of hard not to be when you hear all this. Okay. And I am going to try to keep an open mind until the defense presents their actual case. I will say that they're looking a little sus right now with how they are doing things. Okay. Mm-hmm. I do think that, you know what, you're absolutely right. Always, was so frustrating for me. Let me just, where is your? Oh, yep. I think collusion was the word of the week for the defense. Yes, anybody looking at the reporting would agree. I do. I'm. Yeah, and John, I kind of agree with you. I just saw you call me. And John says there's no body autonomy for the women of the United States right now either. John, don't get me started, but I hear you. I hear you. And more than that, I feel you. I'm feeling it. I got it. Totally. It is very, very upsetting. Okay. And Jujubee, you're right. They should look bad right now. We have only heard the other side. I am interested to see what the defense presents, and I am too. But it does look to be that it's going to be all, they're just mad at me because I don't want to date them. He did come out and attack Jane Doe 3, and he, being Danny Masterson back in 2017, came out and attacked Jane Doe 3. The reason her name is out there is he did that. He said my ex-girlfriend blah is just putting all this on me because we're not together anymore. hmm but that's really not it. When she talks about the whole relationship, quite out there, it's really not that. And she actually talked about him just wanting to get him help with Scientology because at the time, even when they broke up, she thought Scientology could really help him with this problem he was having in his treatment of women in general, even out in public. Remember that story about the degrading of a woman in front of him who was with his husband, talking about her body parts and things like that, right in front of her husband, right out on the streets of LA, and then wondered why he got his face pounded in? Hmm? Remember that? I do. I'm sure the jurors do too. Um, but this it's been more. Oh, she was not just a jealous ex. She didn't want him back. She don't want him back. He was the one that kept contacting her. Really. Mm. I'm telling you. Anyway, through several of the detectives' testimony, we learned that most of what was reported in the reports coincides with the testimony that the women are giving, including the gun, because it goes on and on about whether, she mentioned the gun, Jane Doe won again in the gun, okay? Whether it was brandished, this, that, and what she said. Remember, she was the one um, that sodomy is the legal term in the court for anal sex. Okay, so they in the reports they will say sodomy repeatedly. Why they didn't think that was assault, I don't know, but it did get changed and sent over to the sexual the violent crimes and sexual assault thing. There are separate divisions in police departments, as you know, and detectives and who does the reports, and that's how Reyes got involved. Okay, I have so many notes. I'm gonna go back one more. Hmm. We talked about the phones that were issued and how the women felt compromised afterwards and was starting to lose faith in the LA Police Department. Okay. Um, One thing that Cohen brought up was that Jane Doe 3 had asked for a copy of her own rape report. And that, as the women were losing faith in the LA Police Department, Cohen is insinuating that because Jane Doe 3 asked for her rape report, she received willingly the top page of the report from Detective Reyes. Okay, she asked Detective Reyes for it, and this is how they started to not have trust in her. She asked for the rape report from Detective Reyes. She received the cover page. She wanted the rest of it. She was upset about it. She went to Reyes. Reyes said no. She went over Reyes's head and got it. Okay, got the whole report. It's her report. It's her situation. She got it. Okay. After that, there was some release. There's some leakage of stuff that came out after that, and it isn't. It looked to me like I'm not because it's not an actual transcript. I can't say that defense attorney Cohen was definitely saying this because this is Tony Ortega and several others in the media reporting what they heard and said, and they're reporting. It's like detective defense attorney Cohen is insinuating that Jane Doe 3 is the one who leaked it, and that she did it on purpose because she was trying to get others, to collude the story or to collaborate the story. Um, I think Jane Doe 3 was smart enough to know that that wouldn't have helped her case. Okay. Um, Anyway, at that point, when they start to talk about that, Detective Reyes needs to leave for the day, and they're going to continue her cross examination at another date. At that point, Judge Almeida makes a statement that some of the witnesses are going to be heard out of order, and it goes back and forth. At that point, once Reyes leaves, that's when they start talking with Jordan Ladd again. And I've already told you what her um, testimony was. But again, she was an actress. She worked with she met her actually on a film with Drew Barrymore. She said, "Okay." Mm. Cohen, during Jordan Ladd's testimony, another thing I wanted to bring up was that he actually asked her straight to her face, "Did Jane Doe 2 ask you to go on record with a reporter to say any of this to the public?" And Jordan Ladd looked right at him and said, "Absolutely not." And that's where court ended for the day. Okay. That's where they ended it. Hmm. Yep. Mm. So, what we learned, just as a recap, um, during the last from Friday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and a little bit of Friday morning, we learned that the gun was reported by Jane Doe 1. It is in the report, and it was verified. Okay, that it was mentioned. So defense attorneys Cohen's allusion that why is she bringing it up during the trial, but she hadn't before, looks to be not accurate. Okay. Well, we do know that Jane Doe 2 reported her assault to both her mother and someone not in Scientology, Jordan Ladd. Okay. We also know she tried to go to Scientology again and had gone through all of the layers of ethics review that you have to, just like Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2, who paid $15,000, $20,000 to go through these clearing things because they brought it in. You know, that's Scientology's view on this. This happened to them because of something from their past that they're not dealing with. Some, I don't know, they just brought it in. It's them, not him. Um, hmm. Yep, short court day in Friday. Yeah, and we do have a new court schedule too for next week. Um, so okay, so they were out early today. I'm going to give you the details that actually everything that happened today. I'm going to give it to you next week. I don't really want to go into all of that. That was a pretty big one, and I have a lot to say about what happened this morning. Monday, there will be court, but there'll be no jury. They're going to do motions and all of that. Tuesday, they resume, but only for a half day. There'll be no court next Friday. So we're going to have 4 days of coverage next Friday again. Um, and Judge Almeida also made the statement that she expects the prosecution to be finished by next Thursday and that the defense will take over. Okay. Um, Another note I really want to stress here is that Cohen keeps saying, but y'all talked, right? Like y'all talked to each other. Y'all talked to each other, even though Detective Reyes told you not to talk to anyone. They told you not to talk to anyone. And he's repeated this over and over and over again. And I'd like to remind you that the LAPD asked these women to get other witnesses on record and tape them well in advance, sent them out into the world to speak to the witnesses. Somehow or other, this doesn't coincide in my head with what Cohen is trying to present here. And I don't know, does anybody else have a different view on that? Because, like, to me, that just isn't fitting at all. That's just like, that doesn't work at all. How could Detective Reyes say you don't talk to them, and then everybody else from the police department is telling them, hey, yeah, you got to go out and get this report. You got to get this on record. You got to get that. We need this. We need that. I don't get it. But Reyes herself is like, mm-mm. Now, I don't know. It does look that a lot of the delay in the case and a lot of the shady work that was going on could be result of the way Detective Reyes was handling the case. Now, I'm not going to bash them. Everybody does their job in a different way. It's just looking a little weird that some of the stuff wasn't happening the way it should happen. And it's no wonder that the three of them decided that Detective Reyes wasn't doing right by them. They all have that opinion that she may have been a little sauce. Now, they didn't get together to talk about what happened to them individually. When they first started talking, the three of them, it was about Detective Reyes and what she was doing. Okay, let's be clear. They've all testified to that. Their first conversations were about her and what was not happening with their individual cases. Okay, and that came forward in defense attorney Cohen's cross-examination of Jane Doe 1, 2, and 3. They all collude to the same. I'm going to go through and look at some questions for the next couple of minutes. And we're going to wrap up shortly because I would like to save this morning for... I agree, Juju. I'm really looking forward to finding out after next week what the defense. Juju, that's a weak defense. I'm trying to think what the defense is going to be. What it actually is. I'm really am curious. I'm sure he must have something. John says that a religion is not a cure for effed up psychs. This is apparent. It kind of is a magnet sometimes. Those people are looking for something, huh? Yeah, this is true, Angela Clark. I have noticed this. The more Cohen questions the officers, it only begs more questions about the police department. It's another failure. And, I don't want to, I know it appears like I'm picking on the defense like so much, and that could appear biased. I actually have great respect for them trying very hard for Danny Masterson. I know that's their job, and I keep saying it repeatedly. I give them credit for that. But I got to point out how he's missing the mark. He really is. When I'm looking at it and what he's putting out there, and you build it all up like it's this big thing, and you're going to ask the question, and then the question gets asked, and the other person goes, no. It's just a total failure. It's just a total failure. All that build up of it should be this, it should be that, it should be that. And then, nope, that's not how it was. Here's the actual report. I stick by my report. This is what happened. What they told me is actually in there. What they said on the stand, it's actually in there. Okay, I agree with you, Angela. This has been apparent over the last week, and that's why I'm wondering what's going to come up next week. Like, really, what else can come up? Yep, another. Yes. That happened in a different trial, and I did read about that. Mrs. Cassandra, she says another trial defense asked an alleged victim if they found the defendant attractive. I want to tell you that that's exactly what Cohen did too. He said to Jane Doe too, did you like him? Did you want to date him? Did you want to have a relationship? You thought his money, he had, you mentioned he had was successful, that he had a nice place to live, or that he was in the same circles of you, but more successful. Mm. I, mm, yeah, Mrs. Cassandra, I do agree that the defense is not doing the best that they can right now. At least that's what it perceives to be. I don't know. Maybe it's a hat trick. Maybe he's just like it's a, maybe it's a setup for what's coming. I don't know. I really want to, I want to wait actually and see what they have to say. But I don't, I don't understand right now, because all this setup for it being misinformation or they're misspeaking and all of this, and then it just comes back. They're able to push back easily and prove that he's just going in the wrong direction. Mrs. Cassandra, I am not going to be reporting on the Harvey Weinstein trial at all. That was a decision I made weeks ago. I understand some of it's quite salacious, and I understand that it's a very interesting trial to many. It's been coming for a long time. There's a lot of coverage out there. I mean, I'll talk about it privately with you if you like, but I'm not going to cover it for YouTube. I don't want to give that man any PR whatsoever, and that's a decision I made. So sorry to disappoint, but we could talk about it. You know, anybody that wants in the Murder Minions chat, we can talk about any case you like at any time. You can bring it up. Okay. You're welcome, Sean. Thank you very much for your lovely comment. I'm glad you found it informative. Does anyone have any other questions before I sign off? Because otherwise, I'm just going to. No, no, Mrs. Cassandra, I know. I'm just I have been asked, and there were some salacious things, but besides making it a little more humorous for another show, I really don't think I'm going to cover it seriously. That would be my answer. I don't want to give him a serious nod whatsoever right now. I'm not happy with a lot of things happening. I do know some of the stuff that's happening over there. Um, okay, Juju B has a question. Let me see if I can find it on the other side. Here. Didn't Scientology have to hand over their records about this case? Has the prosecution presented that information? We don't have, I'm thinking the expert witness part will have that. What happened in the beginning was actually the defense entered the book of ethics to try to say that the women shouldn't come forward because they were in violation of a contract with Scientology, even as ex Scientologists. And they actually put the book of ethics in to prove that with the statements that were in there, and that's why they're complaining that Scientology shouldn't be mentioned, and they're the ones that actually brought it in, which is the hysterical part. But Danny Masterson had different attorneys at the time, Tom Mesereau and a female, I forget her name, I am sorry, but it was them that brought that in. There was a lot of flack about it. They got upset when it was actually used by the prosecution to prove that the Scientology went out of their way to inhibit the women from reporting. And so there you go. There we have it. There we have it. But yeah, there are records about the reporting and everything that was turned over. There was a fight about it. They weren't going to do it, but they had to because the women did go to them and report. And so, there was that's why it took so long to get here. There was stuff going back and forth, but I do believe they had to. And I am hoping, Juju, we are going to see this before Thursday next week, that was going to go forward when they bring their expert witnesses out and they start with that. But they need somebody to talk on Scientology a little bit in regards to what the women did. The reports that they filed may not be able to be presented the way that they want. Okay, but actually why they had to do it and things like that can. Remember, Judge Almado is very clear about what about Scientology can come in, and it's only in relationship to how the women felt during this attack and after for the reporting. Okay, during their incidences with Danny Masterson, why they felt certain ways based on the teachings, their personal experiences with Scientology, their personal understanding of what was required of them is what they're allowed to speak about, period. Okay, so whether those records are actually going to be able to be shown, I'm going to have to look further into. I think they're allowed to talk about them, but I don't know if they're actually going to come up as actual for us to see. For us to see. Claire, sounds like you might have a Randall Emmett trial to cover in the crypt. Could be. We got to talk more about that one, Grace. Okay. Okay. True. Yep. Yep, that's it. The expert witnesses, they're coming next. They get the personal, what they wanted to do is present the personal stories first, collaboration of the witnesses that heard the personal stories first, and then the expert witness as to why they're behaving and doing and acting the way that they did to counteract the defense that's going to come next. That's what I think, Jujubee. That's how it looks like it's laying out to me in that standard procedure. From other trials like this, that's what I see. But like I said, I'm not a lawyer nor a paralegal. I'm not there, but that's what it looks like. hmm yeah, you know what? They do say that. They say it's not a religion, and yet they're going to the Supreme Court crying religious freedom. And they got religious status to get out of taxes. So, like, make that make sense, right? Right, Jujubee? I heard that too. Like, it's convenient. They get to take the word away and put it there when they want it, and take it away and put it there. Mm-mm-mm. I'm telling you, it's not. No, it's not a really. Okay, can I plug myself here and plug Chris Shelton for a second? If you have any doubt about Scientology, like, not being a religion, go listen to Chris Shelton and he will tell you exactly what he thinks that Scientology is. He was a Scientologist for a long time. And he's going to come across like he did in my 1 hour conversation with him just recently. And you can find that on my channel under the library chats and also in the Scientology section for the Masterson trial. Listen, anybody who thinks this isn't nothing but a glorified MLM, money making ladder scheme, I don't know what else to call it. Everything you do in Scientology costs you money. If it was a religion, wouldn't you teach the people your religion without making them pay for it? They sign contracts before they even know what they're getting into. That's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother conversation. And I totally enjoyed having it with Chris the other day and Jeff, Chris Shelton and Godless Comma. And Go check it out. I hope to have more conversations with Chris Shelton. He's well informed. He's is in psychology and his experience in Scientology. And he's out there doing the good work for people that are coming out, for people that want to understand. He's speaking the real deal. Definitely. Thank you, Mrs. Cassandra, for dropping that link. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I had another link for you guys. This is for I'm going to end with giving you the link to Leah Remini's 36 points because, she was kind of spot on too about some of this. John says Scientology report every minor thing that anyone does, even family members. Also, Scientology crimes. No. Don't report actual crimes. I know, right? Make that make sense, John. It's like, hey, did they sneeze out of order? Let's write a report. Your job as a Scientologist is to report on all your friends and family if they might be doing something that Scientology needs to know about. Okay? You need to audit everybody. You need to report on everybody that you know. Okay? But if anything actually happens, don't talk about it. Don't report it. Oh, thank you, Mocking. I would love to have another one with him, and I hope I can get him back. I appreciate that. That means a lot. Bird, thanks. I know that thread from Leah is quite the thread. It is quite the thread. hmm Yep. Mm. I was very, very fortunate to have Chris here. I was. And to have that kind of conversation and to be able to talk with somebody that he does more than Scientology. Okay. He does also cults too. And I have looked into other cults too in things. So we had a meeting of the minds on some of these similarities that we're seeing. And it's great. I really had a good time. On that, I'm going to end it unless you have any other questions. Because we're going to have fun for the weekend a little bit. A little bit of serious, a little bit of fun. Let me do the YouTube thing so that nobody comes at me here. Don't forget to like and share and comment. If you're so inclined, subscribe. Hey, if you don't want to, I know you're watching anyway. I got analytics. They tell me you're looking. I don't know why you won't push that button, but hey, that's you, boo. But, here. I'm going to be here anyway. I'm going to talk a little bit of serious and a little bit of not so serious. So tomorrow I'll be over on the shills with Operator Starsky if they doing the update. Enjoy doing that. That should be at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, if I recall. but you can find it on their channel, and I will also put a link for it on my community tab later on today. Later that night, we shall end the night with what the actual fluster cluck. Mm-hmm. Yep. We're going to do that on Saturday in the late evening, probably around 10 o'clock or so. And we got a little treat. Mrs. Cassandra got her very own little mocking media, little splash, and we're going to play it that night. Okay. We also have from Mr. Malort sent me Malort, and I have to drink a shot of it online. I'm not going to show my face, but I may pass out. I don't know. I've never tried it. And it's quite curious because on the box it says to share with friends or enemies. Oh my gosh. Yep. Oh my gosh. Yep, tomorrow. We got Muckery tomorrow. Tomorrow. And then on Sunday, I'm not sure if we're going to do a serious political stream. I would like to, but later in the day, I will be on the Shields at 6 o'clock with Amy Hogan. We're going to do Uncalled For. That's always uh, a wonderful actual discussion. I think we might be talking U.S. politics because of what's going on right now, but I'm not sure. I will give you more on the back of my community tab about that, but that's where I'm going to be. But in the meantime, I hope to see you all later tomorrow night on my channel. Oh, let me just see, Kyle. Let me go back and look. I want to answer you if I can find it. Hold on, Kyle. Okay. Claire, about not covering Weinstein. Would the Ryan Haywood stuff be the same kind of thing? I don't know much about Weinstein, but I feel like there would be some similarities. The Weinstein thing has nothing to do with Ryan Haywood or any other case. It's mostly because of the amount of coverage he's already gotten, how everything started in the beginning with him. And I don't want to get involved because of some of the people that came up against him have proved to be not exactly the most credible at this point. So I stayed away from it for that. It was just too salacious. There was too much media involved. It's everywhere. Why bother? I mean, if I can't add a different opinion or another twist on it, it's just the same old, same old. And I don't know if you watch my content, I don't really think I'm like that. I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. I, if I don't have something to say about it, I'm not going to talk about it. And when it comes to Weinstein, I got nothing to say. I really don't, except for I hope they nail him and his crooked ass self royally. I do. I think it was a bully. I think he used his power in his position. That's all I'm going to say. And because I can't be unbiased, I'm not going to cover it. Okay. But Ryan Haywood, I'd like to look into that, Kyle. I really would. And thank you for asking the question. And I'm sorry I missed it. Angela, yes, the Scientology cross is fake. Fake as hell. Uh, yeah, Juju, you got me. You got me. See? You did get me. Yeah. I can't help it. It's can't help it. That's the bear. On that, I'm going to say bear out. Thank you all for participating. Like, comment, subscribe if you wish. Hit me up with interesting cases. Ryan Haywood information, send it my way. I am interested. Thank you all. Thank you, my mods. Thank you, my members. Thank you, everyone who's listening. Have a great night.